Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadi Tamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, let's see if we can share the screen here. And we are May 19th in Asia. So I thought a nice follow-up to the topic of daily practice is dance and the spiritual path. Very much relates. That's the answer everyone knows. How we make progress as a good dancer, daily practice. Gurudeva had the gift of bringing down to earth in a practical way the guidelines for becoming a more spiritual person. It is easy to talk high philosophy in Hinduism. Man is God, we are divine, and so forth. It is easy to say profound things such as you are a being that has unlimited power within you. However, to put these principles into practice to the extent that we really are a more spiritual person this year than we were a year ago, that is the challenge. And that is what we will explore in this publisher's desk. The ability to help us with that is part of Gurudeva's genius. He gives us high philosophy along with pragmatic guidelines, and in the process keeps us feeling good about ourselves. He never took the approach that we have weaknesses and failings and therefore are imperfect. He makes the opposite point. We are divine beings, meaning we are the soul or spiritual being. However, we also have other qualities that come along with being human. We have instincts, we have an intellect, we have an ego, and we need to keep them all under control so that our soul, our spiritual nature, dominates our days. As Gurudeva says, peace is control, and control is freedom. That is really profound. Peace is control, control is freedom. Gurudeva himself was in his youth an accomplished dancer. Years later, on special occasions, he would dance in the Indian classical Manipuri style. When he spoke about dancing, he would regularly make the comment that in learning dance you are expecting and in fact paying the dance guru to point out your weakest areas, not to compliment you on what you are doing well. As our Satguru, he was providing that same guidance in our spiritual life. So this is an interesting photo. That is, at the time, she was the active mayor of Kauai, Marianne Kusaka, who was an accomplished hula dancer. And this was a celebration of Gurudeva's birthday with lots of people present. So Gurudeva danced along with her, the hula, and then she is trying to dance along with him, the Manipuri style. So it was very exciting. 72nd birthday. Gurudeva's comment leads perfectly into our first comparison of the spiritual path to the study of dance, which is the attitude towards strengths and weaknesses. And that's the first question for you. In learning dance, what is the correct attitude towards strengths and weaknesses? Does a young woman become a better dancer by focusing on the movements she does well? Of course not. She must focus on the movements she has not perfected and strive to improve them. She becomes a better dancer not by focusing on her strengths, but on her weaknesses. Looking at the spiritual path, let's take the example of someone who is happy to help coordinate activities at a nearby Hindu center. However, when she attends puja, she doesn't really feel much devotion for the deity. Her strength is service, and her weakness is devotion. To further advance, she needs to focus less on service and more on activities that will help her deepen her devotion, such as singing bhajans, growing flowers in the home garden for the temple, and sewing clothes for the deity. In learning dance, what is the correct attitude towards striving to improve? New question for you. Correct attitude towards striving to improve. Second comparison is the attitude toward improvement. A good dancer has the attitude that she can always perform a dance better than she has ever done it before. She feels there is always room for improvement and her movements can always be further refined. Looking at the spiritual path, let's take as our example the principle of ahimsa, nonviolence. It is indeed a central principle of Hinduism. Of course, most of us do not indulge in physical violence. Therefore, this almost was talking to publisher's desk. Of course, none of you indulge in physical violence. Therefore, we may conclude that ahimsa presents no challenge to us. However, let's look more closely at the definition of ahimsa, which is not harming others by thought, word, or deed. This clear and complete definition points out that even though we are not harming others with our actions, we can take the attitude of striving to improve our behavior even more by carefully watching our speech and avoiding harming others through our words. The most common forms of verbal violence are teasing, belittling, gossiping, and backbiting. Every reduction we make in harming others less through our words produces spiritual progress. In learning dance, what is the correct attitude toward making mistakes? The comparison of the spiritual path to the study of dance is our attitude toward mistakes. Many beginning dancers are self-conscious about mistakes. They make a mistake and get flustered and can't concentrate on the rest of the dance class. A good teacher will point out that such errors are natural. All dancers make them. With the teacher's encouragement, they overcome the fear of mistakes, take on a more mature attitude, which is, if they misstep during a difficult movement, they resolve to perform the movement better next time. Each mistake becomes an opportunity to improve their craft. Have a little poster, I am wise because I learn from my mistakes. For all of mankind, no matter where one is on the path, spiritual advancement comes from learning from one's mistakes in life. Unfortunately, this process is often inhibited by the wrong-headed idea that we are not supposed to make mistakes. Common first reaction to making a mistake is to become upset, get emotional about it, or, if it is a serious blunder, to feel burdened, even depressed. We need, however, to be like the dancer and simply resolve to do it better next time. Thus, a good second reaction is to think clearly about what happened and why, and to find a way to not repeat the mishap in the future. Perhaps we were not being careful enough, so we resolve to be more prudent next time to prevent the problem from recurring. Perhaps we did not know something, and the experience gives us new knowledge to be used next time. In learning dance, what is the correct approach to controlling willpower, awareness, and life force? Which, as Gurudeva points out, are really just one thing. There's 3 different ways of looking at one thing as willpower, awareness, and life force. Fourth comparison is that dance, like spiritual practice, involves the disciplined control of willpower, awareness, and life force. In dance, willpower is used to move the body through the challenging positions in time with the music and with grace. Awareness needs to constantly focus on the meaning of the song and how that meaning is being expressed in our facial, hand, and body language. Life force must constantly move through the body in a controlled manner. In fact, in teaching basic dance movements, Gurudeva would stress that first you move the life force, the prana, with your mind, and that prana moves the arm or leg. If you move the arm or leg, thinking about the arm or leg, it looks very awkward, doesn't look like a dance. For the spiritual side of discipline control, let's look at the practice of meditation. Willpower manifests in our ability to sit in meditation without moving. We need to focus awareness constantly on the object of our meditation without letting our thoughts wander off into other areas. The life force is controlled through the process of pranayama, regulating our breathing, and pratyahara, withdrawing our energies from our external senses into our spiritual center. In learning dance, what is the correct approach to reading books on dance? A fifth and final comparison is that both dance and spiritual striving are non-intellectual. You do not become a good dancer through reading a book. Though some study is involved, the focus is on the actual practice of dancing. Our physical body is significantly changed and gains new abilities through the many years of practice required to become an accomplished dancer. Reading philosophical books is also part of making progress on the spiritual path. However, most important is the regular practice of spiritual disciplines called sadhana. Our emotional, intellectual, and spiritual natures are significantly changed through performing sadhana for many years. Gurudeva's Satguru Yogaswami stressed this by telling certain devotees whom he saw spending too much time reading philosophy. Remember what he told those devotees? It's not in books, you fool. He urged them to sit, to be still, to control the mind. The disciplines of dance are well defined, and they include exercises in strength, flexibility, grace, and technique. Hinduism's spiritual disciplines can also be broadly divided into 4 categories: good conduct, service, devotion, and meditation. In conclusion, we have looked at 5 ways in which the attitudes of mastering dance and progressing on the spiritual path are similar. An important area everyone can benefit from is improving our weaknesses. Apply this to your life by choosing one aspect of your practice which you feel you need to improve. For example, perhaps on some days you worship in the home shrine before leaving the home, and on other days you skip it. Resolve to become more disciplined and spend every single day in the home shrine. Once you are regular in this practice, you have strengthened a weak area and made tangible spiritual progress, just as little by little a great dancer improves her performance. Oh, that's our first topic. I got distracted by some of the photos. They're very colorful. Second topic. And we're finishing up here. Karma management. 10 principles for effective karma management. Today we're looking at principles 5, 6, 8, and 9. So what happened to 7 and 10? 7 and 10 we already did. We did them out of order. So we'll mention them, but we won't read the full material on them since we've already done them. Okay. Fifth principle of karma management is create no negative karmas. Now that we have a good grasp of the karmic consequences of various kinds of actions, what is needed next to progress even further in the management of karma is a firm commitment to refrain from actions that create no new negative karma. Perhaps we should all take a pledge, such as, I promise from this day onwards to refrain from all actions that create negative karmas. And the question to you, how do we know if a specific action will create negative karma or not? Scriptures such as the Tilkara may make mention of it. We can ask a Hindu religious leader his or her opinion. If young, we can ask our parents. And once we get the knack of it, our own conscience will be able to provide the answer most of the time. It's a good list. And as we have for each one of the 10, we have some idea from Gurudeva. Wise handling of karma begins with the decision to carry the karma we now have cheerfully and not add to it. Firm decision to live in such a way as to create no new negative karma is a sound basis for living a religious life, for following the precepts of Dharma and avoiding that which is adharmic. And again, as we have for each one, we have wisdom from the Tudukara. What good is a man's knowledge unless it prompts him to prevent the pain of others as if it were his own pain? Very nice. Sixth principle of karma management is to seek divine guidance. This brings in the idea that karma management does not have to be done totally on our own. Help is available, divine help in fact. Such help comes from none other than Lord Ganesha, who has the duty of helping sincere devotees manage their karma in the best way possible. Once, through sincere worship, an individual develops a personal relationship with Ganesha, he naturally drops off any remaining adharmic patterns of behavior and becomes fully established in a dharmic life. Not only does Lord Ganesha help one become established in Dharma, but in the best dharmic pattern for this life, known as Swadharma. Our natural occupation and duties to family, friends, relatives, deceased relatives, community, guru, and temple. When we seek the permission and blessings before every undertaking, Ganesha as the Lord of obstacles guides our karmas through creating and removing obstacles from our path, similar to a mother's watching over her young children at play. He also has an extraordinary knack for unweaving complicated situations and making them simple. He can unweave his devotees from their karma, clarifying and purifying their lives. How can we invoke this divine guidance when we encounter karmic difficulties? This is Gurudeva's specific advice. Simply by chanting his name or a simple mantra or placing a flower at his feet, visiting his temples for puja, meditating on him, or just visualizing his holy form and inviting him mentally to help in our time of need. He will respond. And Gurudeva's comment, such a life is the fulfillment of all previous efforts and thus erases the uncomplimentary deeds and adds beneficial ones. So our next birth can be most rewardingly great and useful to the whole of mankind. And Tirukaral talks about the need to draw close to the deity and the benefits. First chapter, in fact. Draw near the feet of him who is free of desire and aversion, and live forever free of suffering. Seventh principle, I'll mention it. mitigate past karmas. Once we have stopped acting in ways that create new negative karma, our life will be sublime enough to focus on ridding ourselves of karmas of the past, mitigating them, meaning to make them less harsh, painful, or severe. And this is the one that we covered, so that's all we'll say. Eighth principle of karma management is accelerating karma. Why wait 20 more births to achieve spiritual maturity when you could achieve it in 2 births? That is the idea behind accelerating karma. So that naturally raises the question, how do we do that? How do we accelerate karma? If we're brave enough to do it. Give me more karma. So accelerate that which was scheduled for a future birth, you're bringing it into this birth. This wasn't clear what accelerate karma means. When we begin meditating and performing regular daily sadhana, preferably at the same time each day, our individual karma is intensified. In our first 4 or 5 years of striving on the path, we face the karmic patterns that we never would have faced in this life had we not consciously intensified our spiritual practices. Those on the spiritual path resolve much more karma in a lifetime than others. They could be called professional karma managers. So, regular daily vigil automatically accelerates our karma. Of course, the duties of grahastha or family life don't allow much time for sadhana. Thus, the principle of karma acceleration is best fulfilled in the stage called sannyasa, both by those following the path of the monk and by everyone after the age of 72. Retirement can be more than playing golf. That's for Westerners. It is an opportunity to intensify our spiritual practices and thus accelerate our karma. And Gurudeva's comment on accelerating karma. By this conscious process of purification, of inner striving, of refining and maturing, the karmas come more swiftly. Evolution speeds up and things can, usually do, get more intense. Don't worry though, that is natural and necessary. That intensity is the way the mind experiences the added cosmic energies that begin to flow through the nervous system. And Tirukkural. Be unremitting in the doing of good deeds. Do them with all your might and by every possible means. Ninth principle of karma management is resolve dream karma. I didn't ask you a question on this one. It's kind of subtle. Though some of our dreams are only the result of thoughts occurring in our own mind, other dreams are caused by being conscious in our astral body and interacting with others in their astral body. These astral plane actions create karma, as do our physical plane actions. This is the basis of the Hindu ideal that one would not steal or injure even in a dream. Why? Because it creates negative karma that will come back to you. These are real karmas that will eventually manifest on the physical plane. However, this can be avoided if you happen to have further dream experiences where appropriate actions are taken to dissolve the karma. More commonly, we can treat the dream or astral plane karmas the same as physical world experiences, and in our waking state perform penance for them, while remembering the high standards of virtue and good conduct that should always be maintained, even during sleep. Gurudeva's insight on resolving dream karma. These kinds of dreams, when a person is in his astral body and can feel what he touches, emote to his experiences, think and talk, are not what is known as the dream state. This is an astral experience similar to the death experience, but the astral body is still connected to the physical body. And Tirukkural. Oops. That's the wrong verse. Seems to be the wrong verse. 10th principle of karma management is incinerate karma. So again, this is one we did. In the practice of yoga, the negative seed karmas can actually be burned up without ever having to be lived through. What we have to do is find the seed and dissolve it in intense inner light. Let's take the analogy of growing alfalfa sprouts. We have previously covered this principle, so we will skip the rest of that. So you take the alfalfa sprouts, take the alfalfa seeds. If you heat them up, they won't sprout. So that's the idea of incinerating karma. You're heating up the karma as it's in its seed form, and therefore it can't sprout or turn into an experience. Oh, thank you very much. We got through our 10 principles. It always amazes me how the Tirukural has something for each principle so long ago. And our third and last topic, as usual, words of our Master, Yoga Swami. Like a lamp with two chimneys, the mind has the body as its chimney, and the atma has the mind. The light is always burning. So we have the body, the mind, and then the atma is inside it all, which is the light that's always burning. But if the chimneys are covered with smoke, they will not shine. What does that mean to you? Chimney of the body and the chimney of the mind are covered with smoke. So my thought was we need to purify the body and mind to see the inner light that is always shining in the atma. So that's an important part of Hindu practices is purification. As we said at the beginning of the Dance Publisher's Desk, God is within you. You are an unlimited being, etc. But most people aren't able to get to that part of them, experience that part of them that is that. Why? Because their chimneys have smoke on them. They're not purified. They haven't taken the time to purify the mind. So kids start out pure, but then become impure eventually. Everybody else has some degree of impurity as adults, and we need to get rid of that, and that's the purpose of Hindu practices, or chitta shuddhi, purification of the mind. Next quote. If we put into practice the little we know, that is enough. We will come to know everything in that way. What does that mean to you? The answer I chose is you don't need to keep learning more and more before you start to practice. Start practicing what you need, what you know, and the process of unfoldment will start moving forward in a natural way. So again, this is Yoga Swami's approach. We don't need a huge amount of intellectual knowledge. We're not approaching Hinduism as an academic subject, which we can get A pluses or A's on our test. Trying to learn philosophy as much as we think we need to know, and then focus on practice. Oh, thank you very much. See if I can stop sharing there. There we go. Oh.